Do you remember the COVID-19 pandemic? The pandemic disrupted our lives in many ways that include research. But just because there were no schools, it doesn't mean that people stopped engaging with science. We often think of science learning as something that happens in a classroom or in a lab. But a lot of science actually happens in much more ordinary places like the kitchen, the living room, and even during play. So my co-author, Dana Vederwijs, and me decided to explore what happens inside families' homes, how parents and children engage with science activities in their everyday lives. To do this, we worked with two families over more than 1 year during the pandemic. Rather than bringing them into a lab, we asked them to record themselves as they went about their daily lives whenever they felt they were doing something related to science. Sometimes those were planned activities like small experiments, but often they were spontaneous moments, conversation, questions, or playful exploration. They used GoPro cameras and their phones to capture those moments at home, in the kitchen, in the park, or wherever the activity happens. So what we collected was not staged or designed by us. It was what science engagement looked like in real family life. We then analyzed those recordings very closely, moment by moment, focusing on specific interactions. Who suggested the idea, who made decisions, who asked questions, and how family members responded to each other. This allowed us to see what science engagement really looks like in everyday family life. To make sense of what we saw, we focus on two key ideas. The first is resources. When families do science, they draw on many different kinds of resources. This can be materials like ingredients, tools, or videos. They can be social, like parents or siblings, and they can be more abstract, like knowledge, skills, or beliefs about how knowledge works. But what really matters is not just having those resources, it's how they are used and who gets access to them. The second idea is epistemic agency. This is about whether someone is actively involved in shaping knowledge, asking questions, making decisions, solving problems, and deciding what counts as good explanation. In other words, are family members just following instructions or are they actually participating as thinkers and knowledge builders? Let me give you an example. In both families that were part of the research, the mothers, Shirley and Yael, decided to try the same activity, making scientific ice cream at home. It's a simple scientific experiment where you mix ingredients, put them in a bag and ice and salt, and shake it until it freezes. You can look up the science of this experiment later. At a first glance, the two families were doing exactly the same thing. They had similar ingredients, similar instructions, and the same goal, to freeze the ice cream. But when we looked closely, the interaction unfolded very differently. In one family, the mother, Shirley, carefully followed the video step by step, guiding each stage of the process. The children, Adal, Lian, and Ofek, were involved, but mostly in carrying out instructions, adding ingredients, holding the tools, helping when asked. When problems came up, like the ice was spilling or the mixture not freezing, the mother, Shirley, quickly stepped in, decided what to do, and solved the problem. In the other family, the process looked a bit more open. The children, Ziv and Guy, were more involved in suggesting what to do, asking questions and trying things out. But even there, at key moments like deciding whether ice cream was ready or how to deal with a problem, the mother, Yael, often took control of the decision. And these small moments really mattered because they shaped who get to think, who get to decide, and who get to participate in building knowledge. What we found is that even when families had similar materials and did the same activity, the way resources were used, especially by parents, played a crucial role in shaping children's opportunities to engage with science. Parents were not just supporting the activity, they were also, unintentionally, shaping children's role in learning processes. Sometimes they opened up spaces for children to explore and make decisions, and sometimes they limited those spaces, taking control of the process and the solutions. This shows that developing children's engagement with science is not only about providing activities or materials, it's also about how we organize the interaction, who gets to ask questions, make decisions, and take part in figuring things out. These everyday moments may seem small, but they carry big implications because in these moments, children are not just learning about science, they're learning whether their ideas matter, whether they can question, and whether they can take part in making sense of the world. And that is the heart of what it means to engage with science. Thank you.